I'm Barney Taylor. Welcome back to In the Record Room. And guess who's here today? DJ, collector, man about town, he wanted me to say, but I'm going to say General Good Egg. 2 words, Adrian Jae. Adrian, hello, sir. How are you?
Good man, good man. Thank you, Barney. Very well. Bit dull and dismal in London today, but I guess the same in Dublin. But
we got bright sunshine, but you know, that's,
have you?
Yeah. But
well, we had that yesterday. So
exactly.
But other than that, yeah, it's strange times we find ourselves in. You know,
the maddest of times.
Yeah, weird, unprecedented, uncharted waters, as I call it. You know,
I think you're right. I mean, and part of the impulse of this series is to try and make sense of this new reality that we have by connecting with people like this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what we would do over a pint or something like that.
Yeah. Or in a club or on a gig or something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's a great idea, and well done.
No, well, listen, thank you for coming along. You know how it works. I probably have forced you to spend hours and hours and hours trawling through your records to choose 3.
Well, in a way, yeah. The task was sort of in front of me, and I just thought, oh my God, right. But you know, if you put your mind to it, you can do it in one hit. You know, maybe spend like an hour or whatever, like just quickly rifling through. And I've not gone very deep. Like I just thought, right, that, and that. There you go, those 3, right?
Yeah.
And as you said to Paul, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If we did it tomorrow, it would be another 3. You know, but they're all relevant. You know.
Listen, that's perfect. And in fact, you know, it's the only way we can make this show manageable by choosing 3. But everything is dependent upon your mood, and it's like having favourite films and bits and pieces.
There you go.
But vinyl's like children in many ways, and you've had them for so long.
Yeah.
A lot of them, you've nurtured them. But before we get on to your records, Adrian, I've been dying to ask you this question. Where did it all begin?
Club-wise or record or music-wise?
Let's go. What's earliest? Record?
Music-wise, yeah, record-wise.
Yeah. Let's start there.
Well, ironically enough, my first memory of a record dates back to 1965 when, and this is quite coincidental. I was 4 years of age, and we were at the end of my first trip with my mum and dad back to Mayo, because that's where they were from,
right?
And indeed retired back to. And we, for some reason, we were in those days. I mean, there was no Knock Airport. The nearest airport was Shannon,
right?
So and it was like about a 4-hour drive up to Mayo, Shannon, or three hours perhaps. Anyway, I think we went over. Well, we did. We went over by boat. And then were we met in Dublin, or did we take the train west? I can't remember. But on the way back, I was sat on a coach, a Bus Éireann coach, at Bus Áras in Dublin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was the airport coach, because we were flying back. You know, and this was another new adventure for me. And the coach was running. I was sat between my mum and dad. The coach was running, and 4 years of age, and I thought, right, we're just about to leave. Right, all of a sudden, my dad got up and just walked out of the coach. I panicked. You know, I went into sort of like I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, I was, my world had sort of like, you know, and I kept asking my mum, where's Dad going? Where's the coach going to leave? I was panicking like mad, you know, and she wouldn't answer me. And I was just at my wit's end. My dad came back on about 5 minutes later, carrying a packet of Major cigarettes. He nipped out to the kiosk. He'd asked the driver, forgot to forget. Yes, got back on, sat down, normal service resumed. But I'll never forget the record that was playing on the coach radio. And that was Downtown by Petula Clark. So that was my first musical memory, which I actually found a single of about 30 years ago, just for memories keepsake, on a stall in Camden Market. But the first record, we'll get onto that in a bit.
Yeah.
But club-wise, where I really, really started the journey was in the summer of 1975 when I was 14 years of age, me and a few mates managed to get into this club, which was called the Bally High. And it was part of the Streatham Ice Rink complex, right? And it had a separate doorway. And you went through this doorway, went up some stairs, and you were in this club, like a Polynesian club.
Yeah.
It was all sort of like, wooden shacks and cocktails and what have you, dance floor and a good sound system. And there was a window in the club that overlooked the rink. So you could stand at the window and look at all the skaters, like just either falling on their backside, what have you. But that bit, I remember 3 particular records stood out. 2 because 2 of them I knew, and the third I didn't know. But it was the third one that blew me away. So the Fame by David Bowie was in the charts at the time. I remember that being played, and I was a massive, massive Bowie fan. Massive since I was like 12 years of age. Yeah. And the other one was Bus Stop by the Fatback Band.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
But that was in the charts at about just underneath number 20. It was sort of like round about the 16, 17 mark. And then after later in the club, it was an afternoon club, should I say? Because what would a 14-year-old be doing in the sort of like 10 till 2 a.m. joint? No. But it was a student. There's a lot of French students there, but like the music was great. And I heard this instrumental, and it just blew me away. And it was Spanish Hustle by the Fatback Band, which was on the same LP. Yeah. And I just wanted more, and that's where it started. So my journey in the music, soul music, being a big, a broad spectrum, jazz, funk, soul, funk itself, you name it, northern, whatever. So I wanted more, So I sort of came along the sort of disco, jazz, funk route, and that was it, for me. So we just started going, and then we started going to this huge nightclub called Tiffany's that was owned by Mecca. Yeah. There were Tiffany's all over the country, but this Tiffany's was in Purley, which is just south of Croydon, on the edge of London, right in far south London. And it was in the Guinness Book of Records for having the biggest dance floor in the UK. And and of course Friday and there were 2 massive bars at either end. Yeah. And of course on a Friday and Saturday night it'd be like a sort of couples cabaret with some sort of cheesy band doing cover versions of pop hits, But Sunday nights was exclusively, we called it sort of like soul nights, soul disco nights. The crowd were the type of crowd you'd expect. We were all young. We were like 16, 17, 18 years old. But, this club held about like nearly 1,000 people, and it was absolutely packed on Sunday. In fact, the weird thing was, and this, try and get this image in your head. When you went through the main doors, you went down a set of carpeted stairs, like a wide staircase straight down, and there were 2 toilets on either side at the bottom of the stairs, that huge sort of area. Yeah. Before you went further onto into the club opened up, and they were old-fashioned toilets because the toilets had foyers, and in the foyers was a woman in the toilet taking your hats and coats. Yeah. And you went through the foyer and into the actual loos themselves, and it was the same both sides. But the blokes was on the left, and every time you went on a Sunday, there was a gang stood outside the men's, smoking cigarettes, looking very ominous. They were Teddy Boys. And what used to happen was, it was really surreal. He'd be playing like disco stuff, and then at a certain part of the night, you'd hear the intro to The Wanderer, Dion. Yeah. And they would stop smoking, drop their cigarettes, whatever they were doing, they'd run. They'd run from the edge of the loop, down the stairs, onto the floor, and they'd be just doing their like, little bop, I mean, when I say Teds, I mean like in full regalia. Yeah. So that was quite surreal. But after a while, that was their only bit of the night, Yeah. And after a while, obviously things faded out. They weren't playing rock and roll anymore. Like I didn't even entertain them. They sort of faded away. I mean, it was just exclusively us. So, and also that club was home to the second jazz funk all dayer, and they had a few all days there prior to the first ever Caister Soul Weekender in August '78, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or was it 9? Can't remember. Yeah, I should know. Yeah, so anyway,
You'll remember as soon as we stop talking. It's always the way.
Yeah. So,
what were the big records at the time? What were the ones you remember?
Right. Well, can we come back to that because one of them is number 2.
We'll come back to that because one of them is going to be your second record. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, okay.
So
when did you start collecting?
Right. So I'll answer that in line with a question you're going to ask me, which is what is the first choice?
Right? Adrian, what's the first record you've chosen?
Okay. The first record I've chosen is the first record I ever bought.
Fabulous.
And it's still the original one. And it's not rare.
Okay.
I used to hear this on the radio, and there was something atmospheric about it that I just had goose pimples, you know, the hairs on my neck and arms. And I was 12 years of age. Was I 12? I think I was 11. I was just short of 12 years of age. But this record was I just couldn't get enough of it. And I just had to buy it. And there was a shop called Page 45 in Cold Harbour Lane. Cold Harbour Lane runs from Brixton to Campbell, or vice versa. And Page 45 was at the Campbell end of Cold Harbour Lane, opposite Campbell Odeon. And it is this. Barry White production, Love Unlimited Orchestra, Walking in the Rain with the One I Love.
Wow.
Right.
I love Barry White.
1972. And that is the copy I bought in 1972. Not rare, but these are just, as we said earlier, it's a bit pompous doing that all the time. I don't want to do like rare stuff. It's memories, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter how much they cost.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, there's a little story that I've just uncovered before I came on air about the third one, but we'll come on to that anyway. So yeah, so number 1, Walking in the Rain with the One I Love, Love Unlimited Orchestra, MCA Records from 1972. So depending on what month, I was either 11 or just turned 12.
And when you hear it now, does it take you back? Does it?
Well, absolutely. It just, I remember about 20 years ago, I had a regular Wednesday show on a pirate station called Unknown FM.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, I had a 2-hour show Wednesday afternoons. And I remember one day, I did a sort of trio, a segue, if you like.
Yeah.
Where I played, I wanted it, the subject was inclemency. No, I just thought, let's do a weather thing. Yeah. So I picked out in my head. I just thought, wow, how would I do that? I mean, this track was going to be obviously one of them. Yeah. So what do I do either side?
Yeah.
Or what are the other two? So I started off with Smokey Robinson's Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
Didn't speak, just ran one into the other because they've all got that effect. Yeah. Quiet Storm has got that wind effect. You know.
Yeah.
The one I went into from there was a rain thing.
Yeah.
In the rain, the dramatics, you know, with the Thunder and Lightning. And as that faded out, I brought this in with the rain intro as well. So it was all relevant. I thought that's quite nice, quite clever. Not clever at all. It's just like thinking on your feet. You know what I mean? So look, so
it's about creating a succession of sounds, and there's a lot of thought goes into it. I mean, you know, sometimes when you're watching people play, you think, oh, they're just doing it instinctively, but actually, it's a bit more than that, isn't it? I mean,
you mentioned in another interview about the days of cassettes.
Yes.
And the cassette you were actually after, yes, there were TDK C90s.
Yes.
But we didn't use those. We used the TDK's SAs, which were Super Avalons.
Ah,
right?
okay.
Do you remember TDK SAs?
Yeah.
Or there was another one, Maxell XLS. Well, with the highest quality of the C90 Maxwell.
Yeah.
And they were the equivalent, if you like, of the TDK SAs.
Yeah.
And we used to do tapes for coach journeys to the weekenders or the all-dayers.
Yeah.
These are jazz funk all-dayers, may I say, because obviously get on to like why I have to make a delineation between the north of England and the south. London and home counties.
Yeah.
Right, is where I grew up. And musically, going back to those days at Tiffany's, and clothes-wise, we knew nothing about Northern Soul. It was it was a Northern thing, and there were towns around the southwest, like from Plymouth, Southampton, where coaches used to go to Wigan. But there wasn't really a scene in those towns, if you like. There might have been a night where people were playing, but in London, we didn't know. And the worst thing that happened, I think, was in 1977. A documentary came out called I think it was on ITV, and it was This England.
Yeah,
and it was the first ever Wigan Casino documentary.
Yeah,
and I was at school at the time. I think I was in the fourth form, possibly. Anyway, I remember the next day going into school and saying to my mates, "Did you see that thing last night? See what them Northerners are wearing? Look at the flag. Look at the baggy trousers. Look at those platform shoes. Look at the vest. Look at their long hair and long sideboards."
Yeah.
And we had been we were wearing, as trendy youngsters, a year or so away from leaving school, we wanted to be hip. It was all about looking good for girls,
Yeah.
And we were wearing peg trousers, and when we went out to Tiffany's, the plastic slip-on shoes, which, contrary to popular belief, were the real dancers thing. Plastic sandals or jellies or whatever you want to call them. When I read, proper soul shoes, you could not. I had two pairs. As soon as I saw the slip-ons, with a basket weave over the top, you could dance in those. You could spin in those.
Yeah.
Those sandals things had pimples. Yeah. They were like the outside of a ping pong racket, enlarged. And you could not spin in them. You couldn't shuffle. You couldn't slide. Couldn't do anything. You
were just kind of stuck, I guess, weren't you?
You could. I mean, they looked all right. You could sort of go from side to side. But that was it. I mean, but it was all about dancing.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by the dancers. Right.
Yeah.
I remember my early days of going to Tiffany's Soul Nights on Sunday nights, and we'd get the last bus back to Brixton, which went through Croydon, Streatham. Some of my mates lived in Streatham, go off there. Anyway, I remember one of our lot was a guy called Des Williams, and I mean, I could not compete. I was just I had two left feet, let's say, but I was fascinated by these dancers, who were absolutely majestic, and sometimes there'd be dance-offs, it was incredible. Right, and it was pointless going in because you'd be laughed, you'd be laughed off the floor. So I was just so scared. And Des Williams, his name was, said to me, "You like this music, don't you? But you can't dance." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I've done it." He said, "Do yourself a favour." He said, "Come for the next 3-4 Sundays. Don't do anything. Get a beer, sit down, and just watch." And you know what? I did that for the next 4 Sundays. I just watched and observed. Yeah. By the 5th Sunday, I was sort of confident enough to get up and dance. Des Williams actually ended up, he was a brilliant dancer himself. He actually featured in the Yaz video years and years later. The Only Way Is Up.
Okay, yeah.
He's one of the dancers.
Wow. Okay.
So that was 15 years later, or maybe longer, maybe more. I'm talking about that. That would have been This would have been 1976 when he told me that.
Yeah.
So we went to clubs just to try and dance. Crackers was one. I never went in the evenings. I was a bit too young, but there was Friday lunchtime sessions, legendary Friday lunchtime sessions at Crackers. That was for dancers, proper music. And also, people forget, the 100 Club sessions on a Saturday afternoon, right? So you spent 3.5 hours in the 100 Club, brilliant sounds, like tunes, jazz, funk, hardcore, boom, boom, dancing, blah, blah, and then come out, and it's daylight, and you're in Oxford Street, and there's all these shoppers going by, another surreal sort of image, but there we go. But I said to people that video, in later years, now that I look back, that video, I have said to people, did no justice did the North a disservice, because I'm sure that was part of the North-South divide, on the football terraces, people, the London teams would saying like you old fashioned, like sort of long head gits or whatever, blah blah, words to that effect. I'm being polite, obviously.
You are being very polite, thank you.
Yeah, but their clothes were different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were wearing where the fashion was going, pointed shoes, for example. You know, nobody wore pointed shoes. Like it was all sort of like round-toed platforms.
Yeah,
and baggy trousers, not flare trousers, baggies. They were still wearing baggies.
Yeah.
And on that video, there was guys wearing high waisters, if you remember, which we'd thrown away about a year and a half before. So I just thought they're stuck in the rut up there. And the music, fashion-wise, they're stuck in the rut. Look at their haircuts. We were wearing short hair. And then a year later, I mean, it was the wedge haircuts, which is the identity for like soul heads. We used to call
I had a wedge years ago. You wouldn't believe it now. Yeah.
Well, hey, catches up with all of us. Why do you think I'm wearing a hat?
Exactly.
I've still got my hair. It's just that it's been so long since I've been to the barbers. It's just out of control, and I'm embarrassed by it. So I'll just wear this when I go out now, which is not a bad look.
I think it's a good look. It's a good look. Yeah. So you
what is that Riverman job, by the way?
What is it? Is it ties?
Well, do you know what? I knew you were going to say that. Did they have Tizer in Ireland back then? I can't remember. But anyway, no, I'll tell you what it is. It's an Aperol spritzer.
Oh, there you go.
Which is Aperol, Prosecco, and soda water on ice. So anyway,
treat
cheers,
yourself, Adrian. Cheers.
Yes, why not?
Cheers.
Yeah, I've talked enough.
No, not at all. Listen, it's my job just to simply sit here and listen. And I'm going to ask you the question. So dancing was a big part, and you were moving through. And then, how did you start playing?
Well, I think it was. I did one or two parties.
Yeah.
Around about 82, 83, and I think in 1980, early 84.
Yeah.
I went to. There was a place in Camden Town called the Electric Ballroom.
Yeah.
You see, we've got to talk about tribalism in the music.
Yeah? Okay, yeah.
Back in those days, certainly in the late 70s, music was tribal and identified by us what you wore.
Yeah, yeah.
You saw a bunch of people walking down the street, you knew exactly what sort of music they were into by what they were dressed.
Yeah.
Be it skinheads, Teds, rockers, or soul boys, or the reggae boys. You know, would wear those sort of they were like Gabici long, something similar to what, not quite the same, but something similar to what Paul was wearing.
Yeah, I remember.
But they were like cardigans and long, and it was a reggae. It came out a reggae look. It was a sort of like soul reggae rebel rockers, reggae rockers look.
Yeah.
Et cetera. So I've lost. What was the question again?
What's the question?
So remind me.
No, when did you start? When did you move behind the decks?
Right.
Yeah.
So I decided I used to go to all the all-dayers, the jazz funk all-dayers.
Yeah.
That was all related to Case the Soul Weekender, and me and my mates from Brixton, who went under the banner of the Frontline Brixton. This is back in the jazz funk tribes days.
Yep.
We were well respected by the DJs, and we knew the DJs. Yeah, we knew Robbie Vincent, Chris Hill at the Gold Mine every Saturday night. I mean, he used to keep us behind so we could have afters to have a chat with us about.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah, I mean, we were sort of lucky in a way, so lucky. I mean, they ended up making a film of us for.
Did they?
Danny Baker, 20th Century Box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you Google 20th Century Box, the jazz funk scene.
Yeah,
Danny Baker did. Where it's all about us. It's all about the Frontline Brixton.
So I'll be able to see you dancing.
You won't actually, because they filmed it at the Royalty, and I hated the Royalty. I really, it was supposed to represent a club like the Gold Mine.
Yeah.
A typical Saturday night at the Gold Mine, but the Gold Mine was a small club.
Yeah.
But people like Whittingham, people used to drive from all over the place to go to the Gold Mine.
Yeah.
Chris Hill and Jeff Youngenspool, Saturday nights. That was de rigueur.
Yeah.
Had to be there. But they wanted people. you know, and like, you know, TV, like they want to sort of like make it sort of a huge extravaganza. So instead of filming at the Gold Mine, which would have been awkward anyway, it would have been a packed house. They decided to do it at the Royalty, you know, which is a big, huge ballroom, as you know. It's where they, you know, the Royalty was used for the nightclub scene in Quadrophenia. In Brighton.
Okay. Yeah.
In Brighton. You know, when Jimmy jumps off the balcony?
I do, yeah. And Sting is
that's
doing his...
That's all at the Royalty. Filmed at the Royalty in Southgate, North London. But it where Froggy used to have a residency.
Right.
But we followed Chris Hill, and we were mates with Jeff Young, and we knew Robbie, and Chris Brown was another jazz funk DJ, very well respected. He had his own night on Sundays at a club called Frenchies in Camberley.
Yeah,
and that was part of the jazz funk journey as well. You know, we were lucky living in Brixton because we could go to Canvey Island in Essex.
Yeah.
On a Saturday, and on a Sunday we go the opposite direction, drive the same way to down to Camberley in Surrey. You know.
Yeah.
And you go to places like the Chertsey Lock in Chertsey. It was a suburban thing, you know.
Yeah.
Jackson's in Slough, the Rio in Didcot in Oxfordshire,
yeah.
California ballrooms in Dunstable.
Okay,
Also, it wasn't in the city; it was suburban. You know,
yes, yeah.
There was quite a few tribes that lived in London, but like you had to have a car. You see,
yeah,
that was it. You had to have a car.
Yeah.
So, I had by about 83. Early 84, you know, I'd had enough of the way the scene was going because you'd see new people like I'd stopped going to the all days, but you'd see new people at the Case the Soul Weekenders. Well, we stopped going to the main room like ages ago. We went to the alternative room, which we christened the jazz room. Yeah. But under jazz, you'd hear things like the JBs, and you'd hear like raw funk stuff as well as Latin jazz and sambas and what have you. You know, and also, you know, we were heading towards, it was the embryos of what eventually ended up becoming the jazz dance scene.
Yeah.
And Bob Jones was instrumental in that, and Bob Jones. Chris Brown used to play a lot of jazz, and that jazz dancing was another thing, you know. But it was so elegant, especially the dancing that I saw when I first started going to clubs, because it was like you could see these like young black dudes. You could see the influence of Gene Kelly, and Fred Astaire, you know, in the foot moves, you know, and like the sort of like expression. It was fantastic. And I read an interview in a paper a couple of years later when I interviewed a couple of these guys. I know from another club. I think these two guys were from Tottenham. And they said, "Look, our heroes are Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire." You know, and you could see it, you know, in the way, and that sort of, that went all the way down to and taken to further extremes when the jazz dance thing started, you know, and exploded. So there we are. So I'd had enough of the Caister Weekender people just buying hats and whistles and shaving foam. They just didn't get it. Yeah, we did that in the first 2 or 3. You know. Yeah. Over, done. Like, this music. Why are we here? Because we want more of this music played on the radio. You know, we wanted One Nation under a groove. Yeah. We wanted the music we were hearing in the clubs being played on radio, national radio. You know, not just 1 or 2. You know, featured in every DJ's playlist. You know, that was the whole thing about the movement. Yeah. And to that end, we achieved it. Unfortunately, we created monsters, such as things that we were like heralding on impulse, things like Somebody Else's Guy, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's what we call cheese now, or an anthem. It's a great record, but unfortunately, it's been rinsed, killed, you know, and it's Dan D from the Baltic Soul Weekender in Germany in a finale on a Sunday afternoon had the German crowd dancing side to side, clapping like this, to things like "I Found Loving."
I remember all of
Somebody
these.
Else's Guy. And I said to him a month later when he was on one of Mick Farrer's soul cruising boat trips along the Thames, where Dan was playing. I said, "You see that music you were playing?" I said, "Do you know what? You don't hear that in England. The only place you'll hear that in England anymore is at a wedding." You know. But he said, you know, but we are German, you know, we are 30 years behind, you know. So anyway, so I'd had enough of all that. So I actually fell into, I say fell into, not literally, I wandered into a club in Bournemouth where I just saw all these like hard times, 50s clad cats, ripped jeans. Well, not deliberately ripped, like original jeans that had just been so worn, which they got from Flip. It was the hard times look. It was a rockabilly look, and the DJ was playing things like Rock the Casbah, James Brown, 70s funk, Jimmy Caster, some jiving, so 50s R&B jive and rockabilly, and I just thought, hold on, this is music that I love, and I really need to know more about like rocking, because I've always loved the 50s image, which is why I can't really comment on the Ministry of Defence. And if you take the 3 letters, you'll understand exactly what I'm on about. And well, listen, God bless them all. All the cats in Dublin who came out of that scene, who were like Northern Soul, crossover, modern DJs, whatever. It all started, from what I understand, out of the mod scene, right? Yeah. So anyway, so much to tell, Bonnie. Right,
Adrian, I'm here, and we might make a part 2 and part 3, I think.
So that was called, the gig I wandered into was called the Dirtbox. But what the Dirtbox was it was a mobile word of mouth thing.
Right, yeah.
And you had to get tickets from like a laundrette. Like I remember one in London, like, the word spread. Oh, right, tickets for Dirtbox. All word of mouth. There was a laundrette down the King's Road. So I went up to the King's Road, got to them. And it was always in like little warehouses. Yeah. This was the first, this is how it all began. In London. In New York, it was going since the early 70s. But in the Bronx. But yeah, they'd find these deserted warehouses, set up a sound system. Of course, it was highly illegal. Yeah. And they'd set up in a room with a door. They'd put a table across and like stock the room with like cans of pills, 24 packs or what have you on wine, Thunderbird wine. Yeah. So yeah, it was raw, it was rough and ready. But it actually not the movement had a regular Saturday night. Or somebody started a regular Saturday night, a guy called Dave Mahoney from out West London way, which is further west than where I am. And it was held at the Electric Ballroom on Saturday nights, and it was called the Warehouse, nice. WHARH. And that was about 84. And I started going regularly. I met a guy in Bournemouth around a friend of mine's flat while I was there, who was part of that scene, and he was the rockabilly DJ in the small room upstairs in the Electric Ballroom. The DJ who was downstairs was the DJ who was actually the Dirtbox DJ, a guy called Jay Strongman, who became a very, very good friend of mine. I've known him ever since. He lives in Pasadena now. Yeah. Yeah. And the 2 guys that formed were responsible for the Dirtbox were Rob Milton, who actually lives in Sydney in Australia, and Dirtbox Phil, who is, you can see wandering around Soho. He's about 6'4" with a bowler hat. You can't mistake him. And anyway, I was there. I used to go with Steve to the rocking room. Downstairs, we'd listen to Jay, so I'd be swapping between rooms. And like the stuff that Jay was playing, I thought, I've got these. I've got these records. I've got these 12s. Yeah. I've got that on an LP, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, it's a bit like Yozza Hughes in Boys and Black Sock. Yeah. Hey, I can do that.
Gets the job.
Gets the job, yeah. So that's where it all started, really. And in 1985, Andrew Trzowski, who started the first ever punk club in London, the legendary Roxy, was a Brixton boy. And he'd after the Roxy had closed, or the lease had ran out, he the following year, or a year or 2 later, opened a club in Brixton, which was the old Ram Jam Club, above the original Kentucky Fried Chicken, a small little club, and he called it The Fridge. And that lasted for about a year and a bit. And then that lease ran out, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of years later, in the ABC cinema, which was disused because it had a fire inside and it gutted the whole place, they took a lease out on it. And in June 85, they opened the Fridge as a live music venue and nightclub. Right, and I was the first ever DJ.
There you go. What did you play?
And I can remember the night in particular. I was wearing a zoot suit and kipper tie, and obviously hair quiffed and what have you, and the queues around the block. I absolutely just, I felt like going to the loo, let's say like that, So like, what I did, I was, when I saw these queues, the doors weren't even open. Yeah. I drove around the one-way system and sat in a pub diagonally opposite the fridge. The pub was called the Prince of Wales, and part of it is still there. And I sat and I watched a boxing match. And the boxing match was Barry McGuigan against Eusebio Pedrosa when he took the world title off Pedrosa. And it was live from Queen's Park Rangers football ground. Yeah. And I sat there just like gathering my thoughts. Because obviously it was like a big moment for me, But it was a great night. And I had another DJ. But yeah, I was just playing sort of like dance stuff of the time, throwing in some 70s funk, throwing in some like maybe some 60s R&B or Motown, and just mixing it up and see what was happening. And hip hop had sort of like had made its way like onto like dance floors by then. So a combination of both. But the point is, I love the idea of like just don't do what the formula says. Just do what you feel. And if it don't work, you won't do it again. You know what I mean?
That's the only way to learn, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. And I'll tell you now, mobile discos, which I don't do, but I did my share of them, is a good learning experience.
Yeah.
Because somebody's wedding, and they're all sit down, and of course your job is to entertain.
Yeah.
And you're going through whatever you play, and nothing's working. So you sort of, by trial and error, you eventually get there, and it's how looking at the crowd and everything. And that's the other thing. DJs who don't look at the crowd, what are you doing? Are you just being selfish and just looking at the records and looking at the record there? You've got to look up. You've got to see what's happening. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're just being totally selfish. Your job is to like entertain. You've got to make people dance, or like have a full dance floor.
Yeah.
And I always say, and I'm swerving around a bit, and as we said we would.
I'm happy to listen.
But one of the most emotional nights that you will probably, you will remember, because it was your gig.
Yeah.
D8.
Yeah.
Mark Sherlock.
Yeah.
London Mark Sherlock.
Yeah.
Right.
God bless his soul.
It was our, we double decked that night.
I remember it. It was an amazing moment.
Yeah. Do you remember? It was the same. That was around the same time Aretha Franklin had passed away.
Yeah.
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 Because I actually did a set on my own later on that night.
Yeah.
And Niall Kaminsky from the Self-Fusion Boys, who you know, is a good friend of mine in Dublin, has got footage of me, and I played Say a Little Prayer, Aretha, in tribute. Yeah. But earlier, because Mark and Tina had gone.
Yes, they had. They had, yeah.
But loads of people from Dublin turned up that night, who courtesy of Mark, because Mark had been to Dublin quite a few times. And he knew Eamon, from the clothes shop.
Yeah,
and he knew, of course, he knew Dublin Mark Sherlock.
Yes,
and the night that Ian was talking about, we were there.
Yeah,
when he was saying he was last one on before Terry Jones.
Yeah,
I remember what Ian played. He played some of my favourite modern soul tracks. And what amazes me, but anyway, let's stick with the...
No, keep going.
I said to Mark, when Mark... That was it, because Mark did an early set. He did.
And
I had to stand with him. He said, don't leave me, don't leave me. Because he was like so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And he was worried about miscuing a record.
But his records were amazing.
Right. I did the queuing and brought them in and out.
Yeah, he chose them.
They were his records, and he chose them. So as far as I'm concerned, that is Mark Sherlock's set.
Absolutely.
Right, and it was packed. The dance floor was packed.
Yeah.
There was a point midway through where the floor faded. And I thought, right, I didn't say anything, right? But, in spite of his illness, he must have had a little eye, to see what was happening.
Yeah.
He kept looking at a mirror that was behind the bar.
Yeah.
So he wasn't looking directly at the dance floor. He was looking over at the bar. He was overwhelmed. He just had tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
The whole time. And bless him, he was trying to dance. Like, it was just the most emotional night,
It was. I mean,
we lost him afterwards. But what he did, I'm not saying this is intentional, but it just so happened that like, at the point where the dance floor was sort of relatively vacant, let's say, having gone from a full dance floor.
Yeah.
Maybe people were in the loo, maybe people were going out for a cigarette, maybe some people were in a bar, maybe, I don't think it was anything to do with his music. It was just at that moment. He put a record on, and the floor came back.
Yeah.
And it was the exits. And I said, Mark, look what you've done there. You know, did you know you did it? And he said, no. No, Mark, the thing is, and here's what I say, anybody can lose the dance floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
The art is bringing it back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go.
No, I mean, I knew that we would be talking about Mark, and obviously that's how we first met, you and I, because Mark and Tina came along to a club night, didn't you?
Yes.
Someone had suggested, because you were doing something else the next night, weren't you?
Well, Dublin Mark Sherlock.
Yeah.
We were going to see Mark, our London Mark Sherlock has got 3 sets of grandparents from Ireland.
Right.
And he was absolutely passionate about his Irish roots.
Yeah. One
lot were from Dublin, one lot from Clare, and another lot were from Mayo. And he'd been to Dublin a few times. He'd been over to see Weller with his brother. He'd been over with to see Eddie play a few times.
Yeah.
Pillar.
Yeah.
But he'd never been to Mayo. Whereas, see that back of my hand.
Yeah.
That's how well I know my part of Mayo. You know, in and out all the time. We've
we've
got family there, obviously. And the house is there, which my sister now owns because Mum passed away 4 years ago. But but we were there. So it was me showing them around Mayo in the hired car.
Yeah.
So we flew into Mayo and planned to fly out of Dublin. The reason why we were going to fly out of Dublin was because Terry Jones was headlining at one of the Soul Fusion gigs in Dublin.
Yeah.
So we were all going to go over to Dublin.
That was the Saturday, wasn't it? That was the Saturday.
That was the Saturday.
Yeah.
That was the Saturday.
That's right.
And I had been corresponding with Niall for ages, but never actually met him.
Yeah.
And when we arrived, he was on the door, and I said, Mr. Kaminsky, I presume. He said, Mr. Jae, I presume, and that was it. Big hugs, and So Niall's a good lad, Anyway, so what happened was 2 things. Dublin Mark Sherlock had said, listen, to London Mark Sherlock, I am on the bill. I'll see if I can get you to share my slot with me. So with Double Deck.
Yep.
Right. Which he did. And Mark knew in advance. So Mark brought records over.
Yeah.
Great. What our Mark Sherlock did, he went to a lad who used to print all the Case the Weekender t-shirts, soul t-shirts for all the bands that used to tour, like Maze, Frankie Beverly, Sister Sledge, Billy Jackson, Crusaders, you name them. Anyone that toured England, he had the contract for doing the t-shirts. And he was an ex-mod, Graham. And Mark said to Graham, could you do me 2 t-shirts, Graham? There's an indie band called the Sherlocks. And they've got their own logo. And here it is. Could you do 2 t-shirts? So when we arrived in Dublin, our Mark gave your Mark the t-shirt. And the pair of them did the double decking wearing the 2 t-shirts.
Brilliant.
The Sherlocks, right?
Brilliant.
But the day before we drove over to Dublin. We got Mark got some messages probably from Dublin Mark Sherlock and Eamon from the shop saying, listen, if you're not doing anything, there's the do on Friday night. You might be interested in. So we said, yeah, we'll do that. So that's how we arrived. And I remember getting in the cab, leaving the hotel to come over. Tina saying to me, this is going to be really different because we don't know any of these DJs, not unlike where we are. And we know what they play. Yeah. We don't know any of these DJs. We don't know what their style is. We don't know what they're going to play. And I said, Tina, this is going to be great because for me, there'll be an opportunity to listen.
Yeah.
And I heard some music there that was just off the scale.
Yeah.
And there were certain things that should have been, if they're played in certain places over here, the crowd would be just like singing them, things like "Just Can't Get You Out of My Mind" by the Four Tops. But that came on, and it was just like I thought, yeah, people are dancing, but no, this is just euphoria. So that's why I grabbed the horse's reins, as they say, jumped on the mini stage and started conducting.
I remember it. Yeah.
And of course, Tina looked absolutely resplendent in her outfit and her dresses and shoes.
She did.
And somebody had a fantastic camera there that night.
Marcus, brilliant. Marcus Dynamo. How are you, Marcus? Right. Yeah.
Took the photo. Yeah. And the photo became the image for the next promotional flyer. Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
That's how we all met.
Absolutely.
We've been, and I've played there a couple of times since, and thanks for inviting us over.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Great people.
Great people. Going back to just with Mark, I mean, it was an extraordinary night. I was just lucky I was able, just before he left, I sat down with him for 5 minutes or so, and we wasn't anything to say. We just kind of sat there with each other, but it was an amazing moment.
I'll tell you what's happening now. I noticed that I'm getting so excited. The camera slightly slipped.
I thought you were sinking. Well, look, I tell you what we'll do then. What we'll do, Adrian, is what's your second record?
Right. So this goes back to those Sunday nights at Tiffany's. This was one that would always, it was a regular play at the time, 1976.
Yeah.
Even though it was recorded in 75. But whenever I hear it, now there are certain records when you hear, you just go, ping, Tiffany's, Sunday nights, 1976. There's a couple over here, which I was going to play as well, or include as well, but I thought, no. Right.
That could be for part two.
Part two, yeah. Ad infinitum.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is this Soul City Walking, Archie Bell and the Drills, Philadelphia International, 1975, but I'm pretty sure it would have been either late 75 or early 76 on Sundays. I first heard that and it was a regular play. I think he probably recorded that with the band in Sigma Sound after David Bowie had vacated it, because 1975, it came out in late 75. Bowie had finished the Young Americans album, recorded at Sigma Sounds at the time. So probably subsequent to Bowie completing the album as a wrap, studios are now available against all the Philly artists. Can like book their time and what have you. You know, big roster of artists. You know, obviously Harold Melvin, Jones Girls, you know, and Archie Bell and the Drills. But another record at the time, which it was very, very important and very significant, believe it or not, was Car Wash by Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Because the whole floor, if that came on, like the hand claps, the whole floor would fill, and there was a routine dance.
Yeah.
Donkeys years later, I was watching Top of the Pops, and this country and western thing came on by Billy Ray. Something about a broken or achy.
Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart.
Right. So in the video, had all these people doing this like sort of
the line dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, but in 1976, you got like 400 people on the dance floor, right, doing the exact same formation dance. Yeah. We called it. We wasn't called line. We called formation dancing. You know.
Yeah.
But it was like grooves. You know, I mean, you didn't just go like that. You know, you had to move your shoulders and everything. And there were jumps and skips. You know, it was a bit intricate, but everyone knew it. You know.
Yeah.
And another big record the following year was the first time on import, 12-inch import, was a group by the name of Chic, and the record was called Dance, Dance, Dance.
Yeah.
The bass line in that. Oh my God. You know, and those days was when you would hear expansions on Listen Smith, like 12-inch RCA, you know, which I've still got my copy. Yeah. I mean, which I bought, it was 50p at the time, new, you know, now worth under 50 quid, but that's not the point. Things like Delirium, Francine McGee, which was a B-side to Feeling Good, which was a vocal version, but nobody played that. It was the instrumental. Unbelievable record. 6 Million Steps, Ronnie Harris. Another amazing disco jazz funk record. Yeah. Big Blow, Manu Dibango. Yeah. That was another big important record. Yeah. So many. Let's Get It Together. El Coco, Coco Motion, El Coco. And so on and so forth. So many. I remember a record that I was determined to get and make my first ever purchase of an import 12-inch. Now, 12 inches at the time were 49p UK release. An import 12 was $1.99. It was a lot of money when you're still at school.
Yeah,
you know? So I thought, well, you can buy 4 UK 12s for £2 or one import. Yeah. But I was determined to get this import record, which was a B-side of a record of a tune called Funky Cello. The B-side was called Bama Boogie Woogie by Cleveland Eaton. And there was a shop in Victoria. There's a small market in Victoria, and it was called TK Ricca Records. And I went all the way straight from school with like £2 notes in my hand. And I went in, the guy said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." It was a soul jazz funk import shop. And I said, "Yeah, have you got Bama Boogie Woogie?" And he said, "Oh, sorry, I've just sold the last copy." And I walked away from that shop, from that counter, like a crestfallen penguin. Like, you know, I didn't know. Like, my head was down in my chest like that, and I was doing like pigeon steps away. Like I was so downhearted and what have you. And he said to me, "Hold on, if you like that, this is just coming. You'll like this." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he played it. There was another Import 12, and I heard the intro to "Running Away" by Roy Ayers.
Yeah,
and I bought it. Yeah. And that was my first ever Import 12 purchase in about 78 when I was 17, I think. So that was it. So we've done the second one. Yeah. So that was it. The club scene. So I didn't have a clue about Northern Soul. Why would I? I was from the jazz funk background, 70s funk, disco, before it went cheesy, Saturday night fever, which is why people who also had like David Bowie and Roxy Music in their armoury, as fans of, became punk for until it went high street, for a year. You know what I mean? A lot of the punks were disenchanted soul boys, early soul boys, who used to forget, because soul wasn't soul was not a dirty word, but it was like, especially amongst your peers, and people like people on the street, you're either into contemporary rock, heavy metal, pop, or status quo, or whatever, blah blah. Like you were stuff you're wearing there. Does that mean you're not a soul merchant, or you? Oh, God preserve us, and all this, like, you know what I mean? So we had to fight, if you like, to get for what we believed in a way. I don't mean it wasn't a political struggle or anything like that. We just stood up and just wore. You wore what you liked, in terms of music. You reflected the sounds, it was important. But it's far. I could go on all day about this, and other things. But we just got to, do fit as much as we can in.
Well, no, we're going to make another one. This is going to be part one. We will.
Right.
We will make another one. So, go on.
Shall I get my lawyer, because the book's going to go. I'm joking. By the way, hi everyone in Dublin, and I hope to see you soon once all this craziness is over.
You'll be back on the bill as soon as we can get you over.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. I'll drink to that.
You drink to that. So what's your last choice for this session? Because I'm not joking, we will have another one of these with you, because I could listen to you all day, Adrian. So,
oh, God bless you. Well, this is interesting because, so when we sort of got really, we progressed, we matured into the sort of like hardcore jazz funk scene, like, and obviously we didn't dismiss, like, the sort of like disco soul stuff, because some great records came out. I mean, Try My Side of Love by the Chi-Lites. It might have reached the outer reaches of the chart, but it was a great record.
Yeah.
We used to buy albums.
Yeah.
Because albums had tracks on that. See what happened? Like, the American companies used to look at the British companies and say, right, are there any tracks off this album that are doing the business? And the reason why, they gauged the reaction on the dance floors, and of course they'd speak to people like Jeff Young, who was actually working for Polydor at the time. Chris Hill, who had his own record company. It was On Sign Records.
Yeah. And
he commanded the dance floor, that fella. So depending on the reaction, they would know whether it was worth releasing a particular track of an album. Yeah. We got the albums first on import. And you go through them, like, and we just thought, you know what? There is so much quality on an album, right? And of course, sevens were sort of frowned on because they weren't the full length versions. In a way. So there's a big gap. I mean, I've spent some years actually finding stuff on 7 that I bought first time round on the album. And the 12. But because I want it on the 7, if there was a 7, that's what I've been doing lately. Whereas if you'd have asked me 35 years ago, then I would have considered buying the 7. It's got to be the 12. It's not long enough. We wanted it longer because we could dance longer. So, hardcore jazz funk. So a lot of the tracks that were biggies were actually just album cuts. For example, Always There by Willie Bobo. It was an album cut from the album Hell of an Act to Follow. Things like Jungle Kitten with Manfredo Fest. It was from the Manifestations album. Like, yeah. If you wanted it, you had to get the album. And these albums were really, really rare.
Yeah.
So another album was The Cost of Living by Reuben Wilson.
Yeah.
And it had a track on there called Got to Get Your Own. And again, it was a really rare album. But I managed, there was a company in, where was it? It was somewhere up in East Anglia called Soul Bowl, Kings Lynn, I think it was.
I remember
Soul
the name,
Bowl. Soul Bowl. It was run by a fella called John Anderson. And he had all these records like from America, like singles and albums and what have you. He used to like ship them in. He had a big, huge barn.
Yeah.
And he used to send lists in to Blues and Soul, and like, they'd print the list.
Yeah.
And one day I saw Got to Get Your Own, Reuben Wilson, the album, right? I think it was a £5. So I sent it off and I got it, right? So I was delighted that I had this track, Got to Get Your Own. And absolutely fantastic. I remember doing, this is interesting, I remember a few years later, that was about sort of 80 to 83, in about 85, I remember playing with my mate, who was the rockabilly DJ upstairs in the Electric Ballroom on Saturday nights. The guy who used to run the Electric Ballroom was a guy called Dave, or his night, the warehouse was Dave Mahoney. And he did a secret trip to Chislehurst Caves, right, where there was a sound system set up, right, and there was a bunch of DJs, of which me and Steve, who loved his 70s funk as well, that he grew up with 70s funk, reggae, and 50s R&B.
Yeah.
Me and him were DJing. And there was a group of DJs. They're all mates, but I didn't recognise them at all. But they were standing to the side of us. And I played Got to Get Your Own. And I looked around and all their heads were nodding like this, like really digging the groove. Like, they were a mixed bunch, like, a multiracial bunch. And there was one guy with really long hair. And I think he was a white guy, and he was obviously summoned or elected by the crew to come over and say, "What is this?" Because they didn't know it. Right? Yeah. And I was really shocked. So I thought, well, they can't be from London or the South East. You know what I mean? And in fact, they weren't. Right? So I told him what it was, and he went back, and all their faces lit up and went, "Oh, man, what a tune." And they were, as it turned out, the Wild Bunch. And the guy who asked me was a guy called Nelly, who ended up playing with Soul to Soul and producing for Bjork, amongst other things. Yeah. Nelly Hooper. Hooper. Yeah. He was the guy who asked me. That was the first time I met Nelly. So what happened was, a few years after that, I go to black music record fairs and what have you.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff I had, but you're always looking for stuff. And I found a 7-inch. And it's actually got the £1 written on it. But I'm sure it was in the 50p box, right? And what it was on Chess Records, Got to Get Your Own, Reuben Wilson.
Mm.
On the A side was the short version, but the B side was the full length version. And it cost, and I had the album.
Yeah.
But I thought 50p for that. And I didn't know anything about rarity or value. I just thought, well, that's worth it. And it's worth having on a 7. Like, not that I bought a lot of 7s at the time, but I thought it's worth having.
Yeah. Just
before we came on air, I've actually looked it up. Probably the going rate is £150. This is not what it's about, because
no,
I've never said it. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show you. There's a guy on Discogs who's selling that. He's a UK seller. And it's the most extraordinary price. It's £346.75p. Right. Well, he's not going to get that. I don't know where he's got that figure from. You'd think he'd round it up or down or whatever. It's not a bidding thing on Discogs. There's one for 112, but it's like bidding opened. There's one pay now for £150. But like, it just goes to show you the madness of it all.
Yeah.
A 7-inch piece of black plastic.
It's I mean, prices like that are crazy, but as you say, it's not about that. It's about the story you've just told me. It's about the connections that a record makes, and all of those people that were listening to that, how many of them then went off and said, "Oh, you've got to hear this, you've got to," and then it kind of,
well, there you go, the Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They knew, they probably had heard the tune before, but they didn't know who it was or what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was like passing on information or sharing information, because
Yeah.
music's for sharing.
Yeah.
And, I've got just so many bloody stories, and Marcus, the time we went round his house after a D8.
And I fell asleep.
You fell asleep. He got the was it Bushmills? I can't
It was
remember.
Bushmills, wasn't it? Yeah.
But
The
it was
good
a
stuff.
special blend.
It was the
special
good
blend.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we sat drinking Bushmills, and he said, "Listen, I listened to that interview you did, meaning me, with Jay Strongman," and he said it was amazing. It was like a who's who of like, but that's the way it was. I was just lucky to be at the start of so many things at the right time. We weren't gifted it. We weren't given the silver spoon. We weren't given the rite of passage. Yeah. It was just sheer luck.
Yeah.
Of course, you had to have the right haircut and clothes in certain places. Not everyone got into the WAG Club or the Mud Club.
It was hard to get into, wasn't it?
Yeah. But you had to look. Chris Sullivan, God bless him, my dear late departed friend Mick Clark, who was one of the jazz funk DJs on the scene. He worked in an import shop called City Sounds in Holborn.
Yeah. And
it was one of the major imports. Most of the DJs had records set aside as soon as they came off the plane to go through and either buy or return. Yeah. And Mick Clark worked there. Mick Clark was headhunted. Two guys came into the shop one day and they said, we've recorded a demo here. Like, we thought you might want to hear it. So Mick went round the back of the shop and played it. It's just a little white label. He said, "How many of these you got?" They said, "Well, all we can afford. We just printed 100." He said, "Right, I'll buy the lot." And they sold out within a week. Right? He made a deal. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Later on, these two boys, actually released it because they were signed to Chrysalis, and that was the record was "You're Lying." And the boys were called Links. Do you remember that?
I do.
Links,
I do remember Links. Yeah.
But Mick Clark was headhunted by Virgin, and he went on to become, well, I think Britain's greatest black music A&R man. Because if you look at his successes, he signed a band from Camden Town took a chance on them called Soul to Soul.
Mm-hmm.
He signed Loose Ends.
Yeah. And
both those bands went on to break America.
Yeah.
And in fact, Loose Ends, I remember like the Brit funk sound was raw and tinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was something about it. But we could never capture the American production. And I remember driving in my car one day when they said, "Oh, this is the new one from Loose Ends." Right? Not that they were big chart sellers anyway. And I listened. This thing came on, and as soon as it started, I just said, "Yeah!" I just started cheering. I said, "Finally, we've caught that sound."
Yeah.
The song was called "Hanging on a String."
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Right, and I said to Mick, that was a game changer because the sound had changed. A British band has got this sound. Mick said there was a British guy called Nick Martinelli living in LA. He was a producer. Mick sent Loose Ends over to LA.
Yeah.
To do this record, right? And that's where it all came from. And Mick, poor old Mick. Mick signed a band called Blue Rondo a la Turk. So later was shortened to Blue Rondo, right?
Yeah.
It was Chris Sullivan's band. Chris Sullivan was the manager, ended up being the manager of the WAG Club. He ran the WAG Club for 30 years.
Yeah.
Managed it. And Mick signed the band, he invited Mick and his wife along to the WAG Club. Mick got there, and it was a rope system.
Yeah.
And Winston was on the door, like this famous, legendary, like long departed bouncer. Lovely guy. And it was a rope system, and the people queued around the block. And Winston, Mick went up to him and said, "Oh, hello." Winston, "Yes, man, we help you." He said, "Yeah, I'm on Chris Sullivan's guest list." He said, "Right, okay. Wait here a minute." So Winston went upstairs and came back down with Chris Sullivan. We were beckoning him in. And as they were going up the stairs into the club itself, Mick said to Chris, "How do you know all these people are here, who to let in or not?" And Chris turned around to me and said, "It's very simple, Mick. Look at the shoes. Look at the shoes." Sorry, that's a terrible Merthyr Tydfil accent.
It wasn't terrible. Chris. It was okay.
sorry, Chris, if you're watching. But anyway, it's a good story. But look at the shoes. So
brilliant.
You had to have the attitude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In dress, and motive, and just everything. You have to have the right look, the right attitude, and because you got to have that. Otherwise, if every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes in, it'll be flooded with people, or diluted with people that you don't really want. It's not for them, and they might be people in there who really, if they had their chance back, wouldn't have gone, and they're stopping other people who should be there getting in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not being elitist. It's got to be a balance.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I could sit and listen to you, Adrian, all day, but I'm going to invite you back for another session because it's just been fascinating picking your brains. But I'm going to bring this episode to an end just by saying thank you very much for
my pleasure
sharing what must be a tiny part of your kind of your memories. And you will be back on again. It's just been fascinating.
God bless you.
Listening to you, Adrian. Thank you very much.
Listen, thank you very much for inviting me, and congratulations on such a great concept. And good luck to all the people out there, and I hope you're all doing well. And I hope to see you all, as I said earlier, very soon, back in Dublin's fair city.
You'll be back over as soon as we can get you over, Adrian. Thank you very much.
Sláinte ar an